Greetings, sending you all some warm, positive vibrations. This is Body Culinary, and today is day number 10 of 30 days of intentional relaxation. Still got my heart rate monitor on, training with clients this morning. So a little bit later than usual. I prefer the early day. I've been up in the early day, but I'm training. So today with relaxation, I want to encourage you to get yourself some kind of nature. Like, even if it's plants in your house, many people think you have to move to the tropics or it has to be some grand production. And I've always been one that, like, your house, if you're paying rent or if you're paying a mortgage, it's your sanctuary when you come in and you close the door. Now more than ever is the opportunity to totally revamp your space and to look around your space and assess if it makes you feel claustrophobic because perhaps there's too much stuff inside of the space. I know too much stuff and too much clutter. Actually, I'm very sensitive, makes me feel claustrophobic, like you're drowning in stuff. So this is a great time to look around your space and see what you might want to let go or gift to someone else. And even if you're in a city, you can maximize your space. I've managed to grow food, some kind of food. Certain things are the staples in a city apartment, right? So I will maximize any space that I have. So I encourage you to surround yourself with plants inside of your home because they do something now. There are faux flowers. I get that too. Sometimes you may not want to bring bugs in the house, but there's something about having real living, breathing plants, right? Some people will complain and say, every time I get a plant, it dies. So that is an excellent experiment for us to see if we can actually commit to nurturing something. It may require us now looking at one of these new fancy little apps to see the behavior, of plants. I would even say that a garden, even if it's in your windowsill, gives you so much information. I would even consider the garden multi-purpose. I think it's an excellent school. I would consider it the ultimate church. Nobody's trying to scam you inside the garden. And similar to your movement practice or vigorous exercise or movement, your mind could be on fire or so full of so many thoughts. But once you start moving and putting your hands in the dirt and the soil, you start to notice more things around. You start to notice and distinguish the sounds of the different birds or whatever the local birds are around you, whether they're pigeons or sparrows or hummingbirds. You start to become more sound. You start to notice some of my favorite creatures, which are ants, who have like the supreme focus. You can really observe them working as a team. I think I've become a professional ant watcher because they're really humbling their focus. But some kind of nature, perhaps look around and see what kind of nature can you bring into your house. I remember this one time I had a fountain. I don't know who I gave this fountain to, but just the sound of the running water, not like the faucet, but just like the trickling sound of the stream was very relaxing. So you can use apps. Apps are great, but sometimes just to hear the natural sounds of water, wind, wind chimes. Um, sometimes just looking, even when I had a fire escape, if I had plants, I had tomato plants and different plants. I'm not telling you legally to put on your fire escape, but I made use of my fire escape one time for a balcony. And sometimes just to see the wind moving the plants I find it very relaxing. So perhaps consider some ways that nature, just real living nature, can really cool you out. So today, we're going to take our 10 plus or more deep breaths, and we're on an exploration to see if breathing very intentionally, something so simple, if it can make a difference in our trajectory, if it can make us more mindful to breathe, if we can notice if we're breathing very shallow from the neck up and hyperventilating with our uh, shoulders all the way up to the ear, restricting blood flow. If it can bring us more aware into our body, to notice if we're being triggered by the images that are coming at us, if we're being triggered by certain relationships and people that we interact daily, if that family members, relationships, partners, co-workers, if we can take a step back and notice, because our energy and our focus is a precious currency. And sometimes when you turn around and you feel dejected or depressed or you can't find the energy you to create or to dance or to do something new, you may not realize that you could have spent it up, right? So we're just looking to see if it can make a difference, right? It doesn't cost us anything to breathe. You don't need any particular religion. Similar to nature doesn't require any religion, which is why I consider it my first church. So you can find a comfortable position for yourself. Any position that's comfortable where you're able to keep your spine upright and to keep a lot of space between your ear and your shoulders so that oxygen and blood is traveling freely. If you want, you can add a yoga block underneath your hips to open up your hips. And we're just going to take some deep breaths for a moment. Eyes can be open or closed. All right. So another part of relaxation that we've been exploring is contemplation. And contemplation could be just a question that you ask of your own onboard divine innate intelligence that we are all born with. It could be something that you're working on. Um, Sometimes just little realizations or quote unquote epiphanies may come up for you as you sit in quiet. So something that just came up for me as I was sitting quietly. And sometimes I'll just put my hand on my chest just to be aware of my presence in this body because we won't always be on this plane. But something that came up for me just as I put my hand on my chest and like to give yourself a break. Perhaps give yourself a break from having to fix everything for everybody. I love to be Miss Fix It. But how about just taking a moment to relax? And what are some things that bring you pleasure in terms of your food? Are you feeding yourself beautiful, like beautiful food, foods that are beautifying and that are beautiful, for example? Do you pay extra if you have extra access to it for a nice piece of passion fruit or maybe perhaps a fruit that you haven't tried before or to get the organic and it costs a little bit more? Are you treating yourself? You know, simple things like maybe perhaps the thing that isn't on sale, to nurture yourself, especially when it comes to things that are around your health and your nourishment, especially fresh, whole food that you can recognize as food that still has its living water intact, And when you purchase these things, you consume them slowly, or do we just gobble it down? Are we able to look at the food and to appreciate the food and the farmers that put their hands in it? If you're in a garden, if you just observe the process of a little seed germinating into a sprout and then growing into a plant, and then to get a healthy stalk, and then a tree, and then several trees taking years before they will bear any fruit. It's actually a humbling process. So observing and picking maybe perhaps plants or something in nature that takes a long time to grow. Perhaps we can give ourselves a break, kind of like plants. We take a minute to grow. Plants need to be pruned. They need water. They need sunshine. They need good nutrients in the soil. Why would we need any less? They need sunshine in order to grow healthy. I notice inside the garden, if I keep taking, let's say pulling different greens or sesame seeds, different things we planted out of the garden, and then if I don't put nutrients back, even though I notice intellectually, to watch certain plants become stunted. They actually become stunted, or sometimes won't even germinate, won't fully grow, because they don't get enough nutrients. That could be enough water, inconsistent water. If the roots are exposed and the roots are not covered with soil, if I didn't put enough compost or nutrients back into the soil and I keep pulling, then the growth gets stunted. So look how much we have in common with plants, which is why just getting some kind of nature and nurturing a plant or something is very relaxing. But also, just like I said, the food is talking to you. Plants are actually communicating and giving us information if we can just slow down to pay attention. So it's a quick little mental health break, a little nourishment break. I invite you to explore. Look at all these bees. Everybody's coming around me, all these little buggies. I invite you to explore that there are other ways. Ooh, all the bugs are coming over here. They must smell my essential oils. I invite you to perhaps consider that there are other ways to nurture ourselves other than physical food, and then also that the people that we're around and the company that we keep. Sometimes that company being your own stuff that's packed in your own brain greatly affects us and our mood. So let's see if you notice certain conversations, maybe perhaps dial in for a minute and notice if certain conversations make you feel anxious. Even sometimes those conversations, even though no one's responding, could be on the screen. Notice if they affect your breathing pattern. If your breathing pattern changes, which is why sometimes intuitively, and sometimes I'll just put my hand on my chest, which will bring me little things, bring me back into awareness to be mindful of, like a tap on the shoulder, but just to putting my hand to my chest. If I'm hyperventilating, if I'm becoming very anxious due to the consumption, right? Consumption is not just physical food, but it's what we're allowing into all of these different orifices. And on that note, we're going to keep it simple. I invite you to create a great day on purpose because you said so. See you soon.